Hello, I'm here to discuss Kim Davis's supposed contempt of court today. As you may know, Kim Davis is the clerk of court. I believe it's Morehead, Kentucky. That's where Rowan County is. And she was recently told that she has to issue same-sex licenses. She was told this by a federal court. Now, just to begin with, before we discuss her contempt of court, let's quickly set aside any delusions that this federal mandate is in any way legal. First of all, the federal court is in contempt of the state because the federal Supreme Court has no authority to tell any state who to issue marriage licenses to. The definition of marriage simply is one man, one woman. Okay, that's the definition that we've always had of marriage. So the Supreme Court has redefined it, and that's their business to redefine it. But according to our federal system of government, which I really like to say more of our Confederate system of government, the Supreme Court has no authority, first of all, to make law. They only interpret law, number one. Number two, even the federal government, through the Congress, who can make law, has no authority to regulate a state's murder laws, like with abortion, or to regulate their marriage laws. Finally, I will say, how dare any state tell someone who to get married anyway? Though I certainly would say a man and a man or a woman and a woman cannot get married because simply that definition does not apply, and no God-believing church should do anything like that. The fact is, it's none of the state's business to begin with. So the state shouldn't even be issuing licenses. Absolutely none of their business. But they do because the state thinks they have to do everything. Well, let's consider the contempt of court charge real quick by reading not our Constitution, but by reading Psalm chapter 2. Why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us. He who sits in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall hold them in derision. Remember that word derision. Then he shall speak to them in his wrath and distress them in his deep displeasure. Yet I have set my king on my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree the Lord has said to me. You are my son, today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance, and the ends of the earth for your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron. You shall dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. Now therefore be wise, O kings, be instructed, you judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you perish in the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are those who put their trust in him. Again, verse 4. He who sits in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall hold them in derision. Basically, the Lord holds these judges in contempt. That judge in Kentucky is in contempt of God, number one. Number two, he is in contempt of the U.S. Constitution. If it were a case to where, let's say the state of Kentucky said, we're going to issue marriages to same-sex couples. In a case like that, maybe I could see saying, okay, maybe the clerk should simply resign. Though I would still support her to keep her job and not issue those licenses. Maybe you would have an argument, okay, the state has made the law. But no legal law has been made. The Supreme Court does not have that authority. And to show you that the Congress does not care, Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution says their Supreme Court's actual jurisdiction can be limited by the Congress. So the Congress could simply vote simple majority in each house, and believe it or not, Roe versus Wade would be off the books. That would free a state to execute abortion providers, actually treat them like capital murderers. It would free up the state to simply tell these crazy judges, no, we're not going to marry two dudes or two ladies. We're not going to do it. So first of all, they are in contempt of the U.S. Constitution, and they are more tyrannical than our original British powers that be. So number one, these guys are in contempt of God's law. Those men who arrested her, or women, those marshals who arrested her, if they belong to a Bible-believing church, should be removed from the rolls, because they are also in contempt not only of the U.S. Constitution, but they are in contempt of God's law. So as long as we allow these kind of things to happen, As long as we allow this powerful federal government to get more powerful, what can we say? But I must say to Christians who have been inconsistent throughout the years, Christians have been famous statists. They love the state. Think of the worst presidents we ever had were the ones that got us into needless wars and caused bloodshed and centralized the power of the state even more. Christians who supported Abraham Lincoln, who was responsible for the deaths of 700,000 people and maiming of many more. People who celebrated guys like McKinley and guys like Teddy Roosevelt with the situation with Spain and concocting that fake war. People who loved Wilson and loved FDR. Guys who were progressives, socialists, leftists, and warmongers. We have supported warmongers and powerful presidents that have destroyed our country for so long. We've hung their pictures on our wall, and we have sang songs like, "Mine eyes have seen the coming of the glory," or "the glory of the coming of the Lord." Pagan song written by a pagan about a pagan war. I'm telling you, Christians have been so inconsistent for so long and have supported centralized state power. Welcome to the year 2015. It doesn't matter that what these guys did was completely illegal at the Supreme Court level. It doesn't matter anymore because these crazy fools who are working for the federal government and even the state governments are going to sit by and let it happen while they are held, as we read right here, in derision by the Lord. So, Judge, you're in contempt of God's court. Federal marshals, you're in contempt of God's court. And churches, if you do not deal with these officers of the court that are doing these things, you are in contempt of God's court.